Well, hello there. Thanks for joining me. I am Dr. Jen, and I'm so pleased you joined me for today's show. Today, we're exploring the location-specific tenancy guidelines for New Brunswick in Canada. And as in all of my location-specific episodes, I am going to be going through all kinds of hyperlinks that are all in the show notes. Each of my location-specific podcasts is set up in the exact same way, answering the same four questions. What are the basics of that area? What are the nuances of that area? What is some guidance about abandoned items left behind by a tenant in that area? And then where to get help in your local area, in this case, New Brunswick. And as I answer these questions, you're going to see me screen share all kinds of documents specific to New Brunswick, and as well as check off items on the bingo card, which I'm going to be doing something different today. I'm actually going to be keeping track of what's on the bingo card, which normally I don't do. Like, I don't write it down normally. I just remember it, sadly. And so today I'm actually going to start making notes on it. Different. It may or may not work. We'll see. But that way, at the end of this, I can go through the bingo card, and which the bingo card is the list of items that I see most of the time, because I've done so many of these location specific episodes. I see all these different locations, and that's what the bingo card is. And you'll start to see some of these. They're the same list as we go. And then at the very end, I'll go through the bingo card itself, and we'll see what's going on in New Brunswick. But I must tell you that there are likely more guiding documents than what I'm giving you here. This is very likely not everything. Even if I got this 100% right as of the date of the recording, 5 minutes after I'm done, it could change. That is the law. That's how it all works, right? So even if I get it 100% right, which I probably don't have it right, but you've got to do your own research, especially since other locations, regional districts, counties, parishes, different municipalities, they all can differ. And so depending on what side of the street your rentals are on, it could really be different. And so you've got to make sure you do your own research. This episode is not all inclusive, but it is designed to get you started. And that way, if you've got an issue, you need some help, this will get you going. I'm going to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Aloha Capital Investments, LLC. If you want to know more about real estate investing, check out alohajv.com. That's Mike and I running around North America doing our thing. And but we're going to jump into New Brunswick right now. Let me bring up the bingo card, which is there. And then let me screen share one of the hyperlinks. So this is the New Brunswick, Canada website. You can see this here, laws.gnb.ca. This one's in English, of course, because it's Canada. Things are in English and French. And this is the Residential Tenancy Act. And you'll see it's very legal because it is a law. And the hyperlink that I've got here, you can open a PDF. You can see it, like I've got it in the browser here, but you can see it. And in this is actually pretty extensive. You can tell just because of the roller thing, it's got just tons and tons of options going down. So it's quite big. But as we go through here, you've got definitions. Peace officer talks about the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP. Oh, they define a premises. This is kind of cool. Does not include different things. Okay. Tenancy agreement, means of an agreement whereby a person is granted the right to possess premises in consideration of payment of rent, of course. Yes. And so they talk about the timing, where the length of notice is 1 week. It's the first day of that week. So this is about giving proper notice, which is important. You got proper notice from the tenant, either giving notice that they're going to depart, or a landlord giving notice that they are ending tenancy, whichever may apply. Landlord's obligations, got to keep the place habitable, good state of cleanliness. You've got to deliver the unit too. That's always interesting when you've got like a renovation or repair going on and it runs late. That can get stressful. That's happened to us, actually. That was really stressful. Okay, tenant's obligation, ordinary cleanliness, failure by tenant to comply. Okay. So if the tenant doesn't behave, You've got to give notice that it's in writing, set out name of the tenant, address of the premises. Yeah. Time prescribed by regulation, tenant must comply with tenant's obligations. So basically, if someone is misbehaving or it's not clean or whatever, then they've got to, you've got to give them some reasonable amount of time. It doesn't say how much, but you've got to say you've got, whatever, 10 days or 14 days, whatever it is. Okay. Now this is just the first document. You can see there's a number of hyperlinks in there. I'm not going to dwell too much on this one, but I do want to scroll down just to see if we can see the overview of this as we go. And let's see what's happening. Cost of performance. See, we haven't gotten any. Oh, here we go. Security deposit. This is definitely on the bingo card. Security deposit fund, lease entered into the section, security deposit. Security deposit is provided against the tenant's failure to pay rent. So that tells you that you can use the deposit for rent. Tenant's failure to reimburse the landlord for expenses incurred by the landlord for the supply of heat, water, electric power, natural gas services. Tenant's failure to pay a late fee required by the landlord under section 19.1. That is definitely on the bingo card. We're going to look at that one here. And then security deposit is not to exceed, in case of week-to-week tenancy, payable of 1 week. Case 2, anything other than week-to-week, the rent payable for 1 month. Okay, so the security deposit is 1 month. Got it. Got it. All right. So there is a late fee, but we don't know what it is yet. I don't see anything about a pet damage deposit of any kind. Let's see. Residential tenancies. Oh, this is quite legalistic, which is okay. This is just notwithstanding. Typically, I try to go through like the user guide version of this, so it's a lot more easy to handle, which we just may skip ahead and come back if we need to. Deposits without requirements of a former lease, order requiring delivery of quarter. Oh, this is giving it back. Okay. Delivery security deposit to, okay, you know what, interest. Residential tenancy administration fee, okay. Let's see, because this is part of it, well, I don't know if this is the same thing, because on my bingo card, I have a tenant application fee. Residential tenancy administration fee. The person who owns the premises, whether or not the premises is completed, is, okay. A person referred to in steps. Okay, this is a little confusing. Okay, I'm not really sure what that is, but it looks like the province creates a fee for having the rental, but that doesn't seem to make sense just yet. Contractual relationship. Okay, I know there's a late fee at 19.1. I'm going to scoot down to 19.1 because I'm curious. Oh, wait a minute. Chattels left on the premises. That's abandoned items. Okay. After abandoning. Okay, so this is pretty typical. So except when a landlord and tenant have agreed and otherwise, a landlord may remove the chattels. Chattels is items that are personal property that can be moved, like it's not attached, like it's not on the wall, like a curtain rod would be attached. The way I was taught about chattels is if you took a room or a rental unit and you turned it upside down like in a washing machine, whatever fell off was considered a chattel. I don't know if that's it, but anyway, so chattel. Let's see. If a tenant leaves chattel in the premises after abandoning the premises in breach of tenancy agreement or after losing possession of the premises on termination or expiry of the tenancy, the landlord shall do 3 things. Store the chattels in a safe and secure location until the landlord is authorized to dispose of the chattels under this section. So there is more information about it. Then also attempt to contact the tenant about the chattels and keep a record of the attempt. And then 3, apply to residential tenancies officer for determination and directions. Okay, so it looks like you have to be directed on what you can do. And so there's talking about entry, privacy, failure to pay rent. 19.1, here is 19.1, where a tenant fails to pay the rent due, the landlord may serve on the tenant a notice to vacate, terminating the tenancy on the day specified in the notice of accordance. Okay, and it says the day specified in a notice shall be at least 15 days after which the notice is served on the tenant. Okay, and what about the fee? Okay, so subject to where notice to vacate has been served on the tenant under subsection 1, the payment of all rent due by the tenant within 7 days. So basically it's pay within 7 or get out in 15. Okay, that's pretty reasonable actually. Late payment fee, here we go. Where a tenant fails to pay the rent when due and the lease provides that the landlord may require a late fee payment. In that circumstance, the landlord may require the tenant to pay a late fee determined in accordance with the regulations, but it doesn't actually say what it is. Oh, acceleration of rent. Okay, acceleration of rent, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary, any term of a tenancy agreement that provides that any reason should be in default of payment rent due, obligation, observance of any obligation of the tenant under tenancy agreement. The whole or any part of the remaining rent for the term of the tenancy becomes due is void and unenforceable. So acceleration of rent means, like, let's say you've signed a 1-year lease with someone and they terminate or they abandon or they get thrown in prison or thrown in the hospital or some reason that they can't actually complete the tenancy. And so they're saying that you can't accelerate the rent, meaning you cannot say, okay, 6 months in, something happens and they have to stop. You can't say, okay, well, you owe me 6 more months of rent, like right now. It doesn't work like that. And most places don't work like that. So that doesn't surprise me. Overholding tenants. So this tells me that the tenancy does end abruptly because it's talking about overholding, meaning it's right at the end. It is abrupt. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're going into, you know what? Let's go to the next one. I am going to screen share. This is the next hyperlink in the show notes here. This is the same website, New Brunswick Housing and Property. So GNB.ca, Family, Home and Community, and then the Housing and Property tab. And then on this is for developers and landlords. It's talking about all kinds of different programs, including homeowner programs. This is mostly about lending. This isn't necessarily about landlording. Renting. Here we go. So if you scroll down on this page, you have buying or selling a rental property. And so how do you do a transition? First-time landlords. Let's go into first-time landlords. And then they have first-time renters in here too. Renting is a business. Very important. Yes. Screening and reference checks. Make sure you're properly screening your tenants before you rent. Tips for first-time landlords. Screen all prospective tenants in the exact same way so it's fair and transparent. Yep. Set reasonable rules. All rules should be clearly written out in the lease. Make sure you have a written lease. Oh my goodness. Doing handshake leases is bad. And then there's actually tenant and landlord relations office right here, renting@gnb.ca, and then the phone number is 888-762-8600. Make sure that you are asking questions. Continuing with tips for first-time landlords: keep your property well maintained and respond to repair requests quickly. Show your tenants respect and kindness, and they will be more likely to do the same. Respect your tenant's privacy. Don't enter the rental without good reason or without giving proper notice. That's called abusive access. Don't do that. And everyone wants to feel safe. Provide a secure rental property with adequate lighting and doors that lock, right? And you want window coverings and things like that. So, okay, I'm going to go back. We're going to go to first-time renters, because there's a lot of people who don't understand how this works. Application process, tenant insurance. Oh, it's talking about tenant insurance. That's interesting. Okay, sometimes it's mentioned and sometimes it's not, but it is mentioned, not required. Tips for first-time renters: view the rental, ask around. Yeah. see what others have to say about your potential landlord. You want to make sure you're working, because you're actually going to be doing business with your landlord, right? You want to actually understand who are you getting into business with. And then access and accessibility, get receipts. Okay. Inspections, landlord entry into a rental unit. Actually, let's go back to inspections. Let's do this. Initial inspection. Oh, cool. Accommodation inspection report. Open in a new tab. Yes. Oh, good one. Oh, and it's even fillable. Oh, so you actually can just put it in and then you go all the way through here. You can even put it, you can do it ahead of time, or you can print it out and you can do it together, which is ideal. Tenant signature, move in and move out. Excellent. Yes, yes, yes. You do want that. Lease wording details. Okay, condition inspection at move in and move out. Yep. Yep. Okay. Fantastic. Final inspection. Okay, so and if the rental is dirty or damaged, unpaid rent, utilities, late fees, landlord can make a claim against the security deposit, but you have to do it properly. You actually have to submit a security deposit claim form, which is right here. And this is how you do it. And so you actually go through the whole thing, and it's English and French on the same page. You'll see it. So you put it in. So tenancy number, landlord identification. So it looks like you've got to have an identification number, New Brunswick landlords. Make sure you've got your number. Otherwise, you can't make a claim for this. And making the claim against the tenant, and then vacated the premises on here, provided written notice. Is there a lease agreement? What's the term, monthly rent, security deposit? And then you've got to show the details. And if you're really skookum, what you should be, you would have invoices and or pictures, and ultimately you'd have a condition inspection form with the tenant, which may or may not have been possible. So, but this is really good. Well done. Well done, New Brunswick. And then security deposit refund agreement form. What's that one? So this is identification of premises, tenancy details, security deposit claim. So this is, okay, so this is if you're actually making the claim, the tenant is agreeing to allow the landlord to have all or some of that. Now, so it looks like, just from seeing here, we haven't gotten this far into it yet, but the security deposit held in trust by residential tenancies officer for the above premises, which means when a security deposit is paid, the landlord must then remit that to residential tenancies officer, and then you make a claim against it. So the landlord doesn't get to keep that money, keep the security deposit at all, which, okay, we've seen that in other places as well. But pre-made forms, super easy to do. Yeah, if the landlord and tenant agree to a portion of the security deposit being kept by the landlord, for example, for damages, carpet cleaning, this should be shown on the refund agreement instead. Fantastic. Okay, well done. Okay, then you've got landlord entry into rental units. You've got proper notice, repairs and maintenance. Okay, if the landlord does not complete the repairs within 2 working days, they must give the tenant at least 24 hours written notice. Landlord can only enter occupied rental unit for repairs and maintenance between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., excluding Sundays and holidays, unless it's at an emergency or at the tenant's request. Yes, viewing and inspection. So this is if a tenant's given proper notice or the landlord's given proper notice and there's a departure transition going on. So give the tenant at least 24 hours notice. No notice is required during the last month of the lease if this is specified in the lease. So if you are a New Brunswick landlord, you want to make sure if you put that in there. Same with the late fee, you want to make sure you've got it. The tenant is not required to be present in the rental unit during landlord's entry. Pet security, the tenant must ensure all pets are secured when the landlord enters. Yeah, no one shall obstruct or prevent the landlord agent representative from entering. Yep, that's happened. Okay, proper notice, rent increase. I'm just kind of going through the bingo card at the same time here. Okay. All right, let's go back to the next one. Lease information. Learn about leases, inspections, how to properly change, assign, or end a lease. So you've got the standard lease form. Oh, thank goodness. Oh my goodness, this is so good. Well done. You make it super easy. The residential standard form lease, fantastic. So it's got the landlord, it's got the tenant, and you've got 3 spaces for the tenant. The tenant wishes to provide emergency contact information. Yes, please make sure, as we have a bigger population that is aging, this is very important that you have contact information for every single tenant. Address, types, permitted use, initial inspection, addition, premises or portion of the premises are smoke free. Restrictions or prohibitions apply in relation to pets. Make sure that you are specific about this. Like, we do not allow pets. You're restricted to 2 dogs under 50 pounds, something like that. Or if your insurance policy does not allow certain types of dog breeds, for example, that's happened too, right? Length of tenancy, how it is, amount of and timing of paying, late payment fees. Here it is, right in the tenancy, right in the lease. The landlord may charge a late fee. The amount of the fee is amount of NSF charges that are paid by the landlord. So under part 6, okay, let's keep going. So services and finishings, what is included in the rent? Security deposit, assignments, signatures, and then tenants emergency contacts if applicable. That's a good idea. Okay, and then it's got oh my goodness, it's got a bunch of addendum items about service, posting, permitted entry. Wow. 7 days notice, wishes to carry out normal repairs, redecoration of premises, notice of termination, month to month, year to year. Okay, rent. Minimum notice period for rent increase, written notice is required. If it's a month-to-month tenancy, at least 6 months notice. If it's year to year, rent increase limitations. Okay, so you have to give 6 months notice for rent increase, 6 months. And how much can the rent increase? You've got to, in addition to separate document. Okay, so we'll get into rent increase, but right now it's saying a landlord shall not increase. Oh, this is for 2022. It said not increase more than 3.8% of existing rent. However, that was for 2022. We'll get to where it is now. Non-payment of rent, alteration of the tenancy agreement, security deposit. Okay, not more than 1 month's rent for security deposit. And then the assignment, and this lease is 12 pages long. And there's a lot in this. So if you are a New Brunswick tenant or landlord, you need to make sure you read this. This is really comprehensive. I haven't seen one this comprehensive just as a standard form in a long time. That's pretty incredible. Oh, roommate agreement form, fantastic. That's always good when you've got 2 unrelated parties that are trying to be roommates. And then what happens when, roommate 1 has a girlfriend that wants to be moved in, and then what happens if they break up or everybody has a big blow up and they all want to leave and they want their part of the security deposit back, or they pay their part of the rent. Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that. So roommate agreement form, fantastic roommate agreement form. I like it. In fact, there is actually no identifiers that this is New Brunswick. I might just steal this and use it in mine as well. That is really fantastic. In fact, I'm going to do that. Roommate agreement form. All right, we're keeping it. I'm keeping it. Okay, so this goes through what is other charges. So like person responsible paying for the bill, what chores, and then house rules, noise, guests, personal items, leaving messages, studying arrangements. So clearly this is set up as same areas to study. So this looks like it's set up for cohabitating students, perhaps. It could be anybody though. And then you have room for extra one, and then they've got a tenant and a witness. And we have actually a separate agreement too, where we say if we have people that are cohabitating as roommates, whether they're boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We take one form of payment and we want one rent payment. And so if rent isn't paid, we rent by the unit, not by the person. So that's how we do it. But this is actually a pretty good roommate agreement. Assigning and subletting, I'm not gonna go into this because there is a little bit more into this. Changing a lease, ending a lease. You want to give full and proper notice. And then a tenant may provide notice to terminate the lease on the day before a rent increase would take effect. Oh, interesting. Okay. Applying to terminate for renovations. That's a whole different thing. I'm not even going to go into that. And then we go into safety issues. Victims of domestic violence can end a lease early. Other reasons to end a lease early. And to do this, the landlord would serve an application to residential tenancies officer. Okay. And then of course, at the bottom of each one of these pages is the contact information. So that's really important. All right, let's keep going to the next one. Rent bank, grant opportunity. No, rent increases. Let's go to the next one. Rent cap. Okay, so landlords are not permitted to increase rent more than 3% every 12 months. Okay, rent can only be increased once every 12 months and not within the first 12 months of tenancy. Okay, so let's just try it. So let's just do $1,000 bucks. So maximum allowable increase is $30, so not more than 3%. However, there are if there's justified capital expenditures, like they're getting new elevator or new air conditioning or something major that stays with the unit, landlords can apply for additional rent increases above and beyond, and it says up to 9%, but they also have to provide supporting evidence when applying that they are actually putting this stuff in. Like if they've purchased, like I said, a new elevator and you've got a contract agreement with a contractor, or air conditioning. Maybe an elevator is not the best example, but you've got air conditioning for as an amenity, right? Okay, how to provide notice of a rent increase. So name of the tenant, address, current rent amount, date when the increase is to take effect, and then getting, then of course, all the same contact information. Cool. Okay, renting, no discrimination is allowed. I'm not even going to go into that. Don't do it. Just what you do for one, you need to do for all, period. And that's it. That's the way it is. Rights and responsibilities of landlords. They've got actually quite a bit in here. E-landlord service, become a member of the e-landlord program, which offers additional online submissions, giving landlords access to 24/7 services. So if you are a New Brunswick landlord or you're about to be, and you're learning, this would be the first thing that I would look at is this e-landlord service. Even if you have to pay to have it, it doesn't matter. I would still have it. So they say create a new account on identity and access management account with Service New Brunswick, provide a void check because you're going to have to pay for it at some point, and then send whatever documents, and then applications will be processed, looks like within a week. And then rights and responsibilities. Landlords have a right for tenants to pay rent on time. They follow the rules, respect the dignity and rights of other tenants and building staff, conduct themselves, not cause nuisance or disturbance, repair any damage that they or their guests can cause, respect, maintain a reasonable level of cleanliness, and respect health and safety regulations, do not cause health and safety risks, communicate needs for specific accommodations and cooperate with accommodation, and you provide proper notice from when they are ending a lease. That's what the landlord has a right, proper tenants to, but you also have a responsibility for providing a copy of the signed lease to the tenant, fulfilling the terms and conditions of the lease agreement, providing a unit that's safe, clean, and fit to live in, providing a unit that's well maintained and meets housing and building standards, ensuring common areas are safe and clean, completing repairs and maintenance in a reasonable amount of time, not off the supply and heat, not of the supply. Landlords are responsible for not. I don't know what that means, but it's basically you have to provide your essential services, so heat, water, electric power. That's weird. I don't know what that is. Provide proper notice for terminations or entry rent increases, respect the dignity and rights of tenants, address nuisance and disturbance issues, respect healthy and safety regulations of the building, and submit security deposit payments to Service New Brunswick within 15 days of collection. We knew that was in there somewhere. We weren't sure. So let's go through this. Yes, this is an NSF fee. Okay. I'm just going through my bingo card here to see if we've got anything in here. Additional responsibilities for rooming houses and mobile home sites. There is. Okay. Rights and responsibilities of renters. This is probably similar. Copy of the signed rent agreement. Request review of the notice of increase. Yeah. Discrimination, cannot discriminate. Service animals. A landlord may have, here, this is it. So this is a big thing about pets. Remember, a pet is a freeloader. The pet is just an animal that does not have a job. A service animal has a job. So a landlord may have a no pets policy, which is not discriminatory in itself, but as part of the duty to accommodate reasonable accessibility and disability related requests, meaning the dog has a job, the landlord must allow an exception to the rule if a disabled tenant needs to bring a service animal into their unit. And there's a guide there. So make sure you are aware. What do you do if a tenant experiences discrimination? And there is a complaint form there. Okay, security deposits. Let's talk about this. Transferring a security deposit, how to pay it. So as a landlord, so it sounds like you collect it from the tenant, and then within 15 days, you've got to submit it to Service New Brunswick. And here's the security deposit remittance form. Let's go in here. So this one, oh, well done. All these pre-made forms, fantastic. So either the landlord or the tenant can pay. You can see in the top right corner that it looks like even the tenant can walk in and say, here, I'm going to do this, and submit it. And landlord address, contact information, identification of the premises and the tenants, and then how they're paying. Is this a new tenancy or is this a top-up of like it, so there's a rent increase and you want to top it up? And that's it. It's just a one-pager. That's pretty easy. I like it. They can also mail it in. Amount that can be charged, we've talked about this, for month to month, it's up to 1 month's rent. And for mobile home site is up to 3 months, but that's different. We'll talk about it. Apply for the return of security deposit. When you move out of your rental unit as a tenant, you can apply for your security deposit return to you, and you must submit an application as soon as possible. Yeah. All tenants named on the security deposit must apply separately for their return of their portion. So that's interesting. So everybody has to do. So this is apply online for the return of the deposit. So if you've got a roommate situation, you can only apply for your portion. And then applying on behalf of someone else. So if there's a power of attorney or here it is, death certificate and will. If the tenant named on the security deposit is deceased, a copy of the will and death certificate must be included with the application application to return the security deposit. If there is no will, the applicant must complete an indemnity letter. Let's look at what the indemnity letter looks like. Indemnity form, entered in a lease agreement. Security deposit has been written, okay, and then reimbursement. Interesting. Transfer to another rental unit. So it looks like you can transfer to security deposit, transfer to new premises. So if you're going to actually shift to another location, you can shift it without actually collecting the money. That's kind of interesting. Just making a note here. Okay, and then we talked about unclaimed rent, unpaid rent, unpaid utilities, unpaid late rent, late payment fees, cleaning or repairs. This is the landlord making a claim against the security deposit. E-landlords. And so it's different if you're an e-landlord. Again, if you are a landlord in New Brunswick, this is a good idea. So you can actually do this whole thing online. You don't have to do this. Oh, we did talk about this. We pulled this up already. Okay, got it. Disagreement with a claim. Okay, I think we are getting to solve a problem. Let's see what it says in here. Solve a problem step by step. Talk it over. Many cases, problems can be resolved through discussion. Contact your landlord or your tenant to discuss your concerns. Have that awkward conversation. It is not fun, but you feel better after it. Step 2, make a complaint in writing. If it doesn't actually work, you can actually also, let's see what their notice of complaint form looks like. There it is, notice of complaint. And you make this copy to the Residential Tenancies Tribunal. Please be advised we're requesting the following issues. And you basically just request help to solve it. And you want to make sure you keep copies of all communication, whether it's text messages, emails, if you're keeping a journal, which that I do. I keep a journal, a property log of everything. Apply for assistance. And then they've got tenant and landlord assistant online and PDF. But again, if you're in e-landlord, that will help you. And then mediation, decision, appealing a decision. So this is basically, you've got a problem. Oh boy, that's going to be really fun. Okay, that's just the second housing, a second hyperlink. Let's go to the third one, rights and responsibilities of renters. Oh, we've gone through this. Okay, abandoned items. Let's go in here, abandoned tenant belongings, and then we've got 3 more hyperlinks, which we'll go really quick, and then I'll go through the bingo card and we'll be done. But let's go through this overview. So occasionally tenant may leave belongings behind after a move out. It might be clothing, personal items, chattels, again, anything that isn't tied down. What to do with abandoned belongings. So try to get a hold of the tenant, because if they can deal with it themselves, that would be ideal. So, but if you need help, apply for assistance. And I'm going to open the PDF one because the other one is online. So this is landlord information, landlord's address, names of witnesses, and then tenant's address, and then reason for application of assistant, request for tenant's repairs and cleaning, non-respect. So this is basically an application for assistance. Like if they're not paying or they're misbehaving, this is the form that you use. But this one is disposition of tenants' abandoned chattels. Other considerations, has their security deposit collected? Should say yes. Evidence provided should say yes, like pictures, inventory list that you've got, right? And then you submit the whole thing. Well done, I like that. Okay. Provide the list of items and the amount of rent owing. So basically you put everything together, your list of items, and then anything, all the amount of rent owing plus your late fees. And then they're going to contact you. And then if your tenant responds, then ideally they can come and deal with some stuff too, which is good. But it doesn't, typically when we talk about abandoned items, it says this is how long that you have to hold them. This is how long, you know, like there's a dollar amount saying, you know, if it's above X amount of dollars, then you have to hold it and then try to sell it. But in this one, they just say hold everything and wait for direction. Okay. All right, let's go to the next hyperlink. This one is the New Brunswick Apartment Owners Association. If you want help, other than joining e-landlording on New Brunswick website, I would join this one, Apartment Owners Association. Even if you are not owning an apartment, let's say you own a single family home or 2 or 10, this is where people of like-minded conversations are having these conversations. Become a member. Here's some resources. Let's look at some of the resources. Links. So they've got rental market survey data tables. If you're wondering what to charge for your unit, this is where you can go and ask. Small claims court guide, building affordable housing, associations. There's just a ton of stuff. Subscribe to our newsletter, easy peasy. It's probably free, right? Go in here, absolutely. Annual conference, go to their conference. Cool. Really cool. Okay, now the last 2, I've got legal aid and then I've got the Bar Association. So this one's Legal Aid Services Commission website, criminal matters, family matters. This one is just, hey, if I need help, where could I go? And it's geographic location, right? You can go through any of these and just say, I need help, da 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 da, and they'll explain. Doesn't look like they do a whole lot of, let's go to resources here. They may not do a whole lot for housing though. Links to other valuable websites. Alzheimer's Society, yeah, it doesn't look like they do a whole lot. Public trustee, It's typically wills and estate planning, financial and personal affairs, family law. This one is, legal aid may not involve housing in New Brunswick. So you definitely want to ask questions. Like if you've got a question, I would start with residential tenancies and then pop over here if you need. Or my last hyperlink is about the Bar Society. This is the Law Society for Law Society of New Brunswick. And so if you need to find a lawyer, even if you're going to do a quick consultation, but it's residential tenancies is pretty comprehensive. I would start there if I needed help. But if you need something else, here you go. Here's the link for New Brunswick. Okay, let me pop back over to my bingo card. Let's do bingo card next. And then, okay, so here's my bingo card. Here's New Brunswick. Tenant application fee. We didn't see anything about a tenant application fee. So I'm just going to put none. Grace period for late rent without penalty. So they said pay in 7 days or out in 15. But it wasn't really a grace period, right? Like it wasn't really a grace period. Like it was sort of the countdown of you're on an eviction, right? So it's a little bit difficult. Okay, late fee, either a % or flat amount. So the amount of the late fee is the NFF charge to landlord, okay? Security deposit method, it's 1 month, and then it goes to Service New Brunswick, right? So it's not, the landlord doesn't even keep it. Lease wording and details, it's a pre-made form. Is an emergency contact required? No, it's not required, but it is recommended, it is optional. And I'm very happy to see this because I don't normally see this. This is good, tenant contact, emergency contact. I don't normally see this on applications or even in leases, but it is setting you up for success in the event of tenant abandonment, incapacitation, death, or imprisonment. What do you do? And as the boomers age, they want to age in their home. And this is reality. You want to make sure you have a contact person. Pets and animals, is there a pet deposit or rent? I didn't see anything about pets. We saw some stuff about service animals. Delivery of signed lease required. Yes, it is required, but they didn't say like a day. They just said, yes, you have to give it to, like a landlord has to give the signed lease to the tenant, but they didn't actually say when. Okay. Condition inspection at move-in. Yes, and they gave a great condition inspection form to fill out together. And I've actually seen better ones, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Standard warning letters or wording. No, but there were quite a few pre-made forms, but it was like go right to eviction or go right to reporting. It wasn't more like, hey, smarten up kind of a thing, so no, there's not really standard warning letters. Required maintenance inspections, no, but good idea to have some rotating maintenance schedules. How often can the rent be increased? Once per year and not in the first 12 months. Proper notice on a rent increase is 6 months. Wow, 6 months. How much can the rent be increased? 3%, not more than 3%, and you have to give 6 months notice. Renter's insurance is mentioned, not required. Is abusive access defined? Yes. Is landlord retaliation defined and or timing? No, they did not mention landlord retaliation, which is kind of surprising. Typically, it is talking about a length of time following a tenant that's either reporting a code or health violation of some kind, or that maybe the tenant has formed a union or joined a union. And so the landlord has some kind of retaliation action, which would include rent increase, decrease of amenities, or trying to evict them. And that's usually some period of time, like X amount of months. In this case, they don't mention it at all. Is the end of a fixed lease abrupt? Yes, it is abrupt because they were talking about holdover situations, and that doesn't happen if it automatically converts to a periodic tenancy or a month-to-month tenancy. Condition inspection at move out, yes. Return of deposit or other timing. Did not talk about the timing, but they were talking about application because remember, the landlord does not have the security deposit. Service New Brunswick has the security deposit. And so you want to make application for that as soon as possible, but it is not the landlord that is in fault. It would be to Service New Brunswick. Can you use the last month's rent deposit for last month's rent, yes or no? You can, but the landlord then has to make application to Service New Brunswick to get that money. How long can you give notice of eviction due to non-payment of rent or utilities? So it looks like non-payment of rent was pay in 7, get out in 15. That looks like that was it. But if you're in this situation, make sure you are checking the most current information. Due to mischief, I didn't look at any of the eviction stuff due to mischief. How long until you can get possession of a unit? I didn't look at any of this stuff, but we did look at abandoned items, value of items, administrative inventory, storage, timing, disposition. Basically what they said was submit the form with document about the abandoned items and then wait, right? Submit pictures and then wait. So I'm going to stop sharing for the bingo card for New Brunswick, but here we are. And in each of my location-specific podcasts, as we conclude today's episode, it's set up answering the same 4 questions. What are the basics of that location? What are the nuances of that location? What about items that a tenant has left behind during a tenancy in that location? And then where to get help in the local real estate area. As I did that, you saw me keep track on my bingo card, which is the standard items I see most often in tenancy laws in all these different locations, which helps as a summary. And this is the same format for every single location-specific episode. So if you're interested in another geographic area, or you're looking at rentals in a different geographic area, or you're just curious, whatever, you already know what I'm going to talk about just in a different location. I have to say my disclaimer, though, this episode is not all-inclusive. You must research further in your specific area to include your county, regional district, municipality, city, parish, other governing body, whoever that involves your rental location, not where you are, but where your rentals are. But today's episode will get you started. Now, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are that you're either new to real estate or you are a New Brunswick landlord. You're either somewhere, you're in that journey somewhere. Things you can do to help yourself is read the New Brunswick Residential Tenancies Act. And the second thing you can do is get in the conversation of where New Brunswick landlords are talking. And that can either be physically in the room at meetups or conferences, or join a social media group, like there's Facebook groups of all kinds talking about landlords. So get into these conversations, say, hey, I'm a New Brunswick landlord. I've got this problem, this question, blah, blah, blah. And people will jump into helping you and in all the different conversation friends. Just get in the room where the same folks are asking the same questions that you're doing. I hope you did enjoy today's show all about New Brunswick. Don't forget to subscribe to My Life as a Landlord for more expert advice and real stories from across the rental property world. I'm recording this episode today from Maui, Hawaii. Well, don't forget that real estate takes you places. Where do you want real estate to take you? Join me in the next episode live right now in the library, episode 216, about the first U.S. state of Delaware. I'll see you there.